This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
This is a special edition of Financial Insanity as we are bringing in a guest to help us talk about love and legacy. I'm Alex Dingman, alongside, as always, Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group, and we're bringing in Dave Connolley. You've heard him before. He's been a lawyer in New Jersey for over 40 years and is a consultant currently for the firm of Elizabeth Apollo. And yes, we are all here to discuss estate planning for unmarried partners. Because you see, guys, in a world where love knows no bounds, many couples have chosen a path less traveled by opting for domestic partnership over marriage. But what happens when it comes to securing your future together, protecting your assets, and avoiding those notorious tax pitfalls? We all want to do that. Scott, talk about the fact that people may join domestic partnership agreements for various reasons, right?
There are so many reasons that I've noticed, whether you live in Florida, New Jersey, California, no matter where you live, every state is different, which is why I brought Dave in, and we've worked together so many years, and as a tremendous consultant now with Elizabeth. You know, I think we want to bring a lawyer on, and of course, now as a consultant, because you may be listening to us right now, and you're living with a lovely spouse, and or not spouse, I shouldn't say, you're not married yet, but you're living with a loved one. You don't want to get married, and I've gone through this so many different scenarios, and I don't need to know why you don't want to get married. The question is what's going to happen if you don't get married, if you pass away. Is she or him, or maybe you have same-sex partners. It's all the same when it comes to this world. And Alex, the challenge I find is what happens if one of you die? Let's say my girlfriend and I, we, of course, live in my house, and all of a sudden, it's my house. I have 3 children, and all of a sudden I die. Are my kids going to throw my girlfriend out, my lover out? This is so many problems. What happens if I go to the hospital, and then all of a sudden, who's going to make some decisions? What happens if I die and my lover gets some of my assets? What's the taxation? So I wanted to bring Davey in because he's seen this so many times, and I can tell you when I handle people's finances, this is a problem. This is nothing to put off, guys. If this is you, or maybe you have a friend, or maybe you have maybe you're thinking about maybe having your lover move in with you, and you're not sure how to handle it. You're not sure how to talk to your kids, with over 42 years of experience. Let's have that talk, Alex. People need to give us a call, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And that number, if you hear something today that resonates with you, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And we're not going to have tons of time to dive into each one of these common reasons to join a domestic partnership agreement, to obtain one, but we're going to try to go through this list as best we can. And let's start with one obvious one, guys: tax benefits. Talk a little bit about the potential tax benefits of joining this sort of agreement.
Dave, you just faced a case right now that we're working on together. We won't say names.
Right.
And you've been helping this family amazing. And this couple did not get married. They were about to get married. Dave, share what's going on and the nightmare and the expense that they could have avoided.
The good news is that the estate is worth close to $2 million, which is great. The bad news is that for personal reasons, that the couple who were living together for several years did not want to get married at this time and did not enter into a domestic partnership agreement. He was in his 50s and unfortunately took a heart attack and left everything to his live-in. And as a result of not being married, they are going to pay, or she's going to pay, somewhere around $300,000 to the state of New Jersey. That's inheritance taxes. That could have been afforded if they had, even if they're not married, if they had registered as a domestic partnership. Domestic partnership is given the same benefits in inheritance taxes as a married couple. So the $300,000 would have went away and everything still would have went to the spouse. But you have to take that initial step to register for the domestic partnership. In order to qualify for a domestic partnership, it can be same-sex couples or opposite sex. You have to be both parties have to be 62 years or older. They have to share a common residence in New Jersey. Both have to be jointly responsible for each other's common welfare and have either financial arrangements that they're both responsible for each other, joint ownership in real estate, joint ownership in personal property, and then they're truly responsible for each other. They have to, neither applicant can be married or in a civil union relationship with another party. You have to take this application for domestic partnership and you file it in any municipality in the state of New Jersey. You take the application, you fill it out in front of a notary, you pay a fee, I think it's $28, and then they will give you an affidavit of domestic partnership confirming that you are in a relationship. That would eliminate the inheritance taxes, and that's probably the biggest benefit.
Well, and Dave, you talked $28 there, roughly to get that, to save yourself $300,000. And what I hear sometimes is people will say, well, I'm not getting married. It's just paperwork. It doesn't mean anything. It's just whatever. Government can just get our hand in our relationship or something. Well, this is a great example of, that little bit of paperwork, there can be a good reason. You become incapacitated or, God forbid you pass away. You want to have things lined up correctly. And sometimes if it's not a marriage, this sort of domestic partnership agreement can protect you. And so thank you for going over the tax benefits. And I skipped over one, legal protections, an obvious one as well, kind of in the same vein there. So if you would, discuss that a little bit, legal protections for a couple in this sort of agreement.
I'd met a couple, a lovely couple. They've been living together for 17 years. And I said, why the heck you guys ain't getting married now? What's going on? Oh, Scotty, we've been through it. My lovely girlfriend here, and I want to make sure she's taken care of. And but I didn't want to, I just didn't want to go that route. Okay, great. So you've been together 17 years. And I said to this young lady, because she was the owner of the house, we'll call her Maggie. We'll call her like my daughter's name. So Maggie was married to, let's say, a guy named Tom. And so Maggie and Tom are not married, but together 17 years. And I said, Maggie, in the event you pass away, is Tom allowed to stay at the house? Because Tom has 2 children and Maggie has 3 children. And Maggie said, well, sure he can. Do you have something in writing? Well, no. Dave, if you remember this family, you did the agreement, and basically, what would happen if they didn't do a agreement? What do you call this agreement to make sure that this partner Tom can stay in Maggie's house, take care of it? What are the rules in this case? Because I see this, they love each other. The kids know all the kids know each other. But you know what? The crows and the clowns show up at the funeral. What do you do?
In New Jersey, a partner that is not registered, if you're living with a partner and you're not registered as a domestic partner, that partner has absolutely no rights in the deceased party's estate. The only rights come via the deceased party's last will and testament. So if the person is not named in a last will and testament, if the survivor is not named at all and everything goes to the deceased person's children, then they're out of luck. The children can do anything they want with the property, and the survivor has absolutely no rights. So it's not only a tax issue, it's also an issue of your rights in the estate of your domestic partner. You're treated as a spouse if you have the domestic partnership filed. If you don't have it, you're not treated as a spouse. Basically, you're treated as a stranger.
What about this rule? I hear people saying, well, I heard that if you common law, if we're married, if we're together for XYZ years, we have common law. What are they saying?
Ain't no such thing as common law in New Jersey.
Okay. Alex?
That's as easy as that is. All right, guys, we got about one more minute here. And so what I want you to do, I want you to roll into the phone number, but finish off with, a 1-minute thought on the healthcare benefits. Just real quickly, the benefits from a healthcare perspective when you're in a partnership like this.
Well, the health care is normally given by an employer to an employee. Most of the employers are treating a domestic partner the same as a spouse. But it's not law that the state can rule and regulate. It's the companies regulated, and the companies are going towards giving the domestic partner the same rights as a spouse. And the domestic partnership law is statewide. So each state has to recognize it. If your state does not recognize it, you don't have a domestic partnership relationship, and it's not governed by federal law. So if you're a domestic partner, you can file a joint return with the state of New Jersey. If you're a domestic partnership, you still cannot file a joint return with the federal government. It has to be individual.
And Scott,
but Alex, it goes one more thing. It's called who's going to make the decision if you're in the hospital, nursing care. Who's making those decisions? That goes to the power of attorney agreement. In addition to what Dave was mentioning about this tremendous agreement that people need to put in place.
Yep. Very important stuff. And if you have questions about this, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. We got more reasons coming up here common reasons for obtaining a domestic partnership agreement. This is really interesting stuff. We're going to come right back, talk about parental rights, financial planning, and more on the other side. This is Financial Insanity.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646.
Investment advisory services are offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Can we really live the go-go years, or am I going to scrimp and save and stay at home and watch TV, watch Bob Barker? I don't know.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Thank you so much for joining us today on a special edition of Financial Insanity. Scott and I, joined by Dave Connolley. He's been a lawyer in the area for over 40 years, currently a consultant for the firm of Elizabeth Apollo. Today, we're talking about estate planning for unmarried partners. Oh yeah, we cover it all, baby. And we are going over some common reasons for obtaining a domestic partnership agreement. We just love on this show, and we just want to help you no matter what your love looks like. Let's talk here about parental rights, and I know we also want to get into financial planning.
Thanks, Alex. I'm so glad that if you're listening right now, we've spoken about it a lot. I want you to be able to go back to our website and be able to listen to this recording. If you are thinking about moving in with your lover, maybe you're in with your lover right now, I can promise you need to take your legal. Now, why would a financial planner talk about these legal documents? Because I call the three blind mice, and they don't talk to each other. And there we could do financial planning, which Alex just spent time we're going to talk about. But the question is, financial planning not only encompasses money, it also encompasses the assets, like the house, like the other real estates, property. Dave, Alex brought up an issue about parental rights. Now, obviously, this is different. So go over that, Dave.
If there's an issue of parental rights, there's going to be, in all likelihood, a court hearing. A lot of people go into the domestic relationship with the idea that if they don't want to continue with that relationship, all they have to do is file a notice of termination with the same township that they filed the original domestic relationship documents with, and it's done. And that's correct. But if there's a problem with parental rights, if there's a problem with distribution of property, then you're in the same type of relationship as a married couple getting divorced. So you do have the rights of a spouse with respect to your children. You do have the rights of a spouse with respect to distribution of property, but you're in family court arguing the matter.
That could cost a lot of money. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, you can't eliminate that if the parties can't agree to distribution of property or custody of child and visitation. It has to go to court, and the only one that can decide is a judge. But you're not getting any more or any less rights by entering into a domestic partnership. If everything is agreed to, you don't have to go through a divorce. You just file a termination and you're done.
So this leads us into the will. Now it leads us into the power of attorney. The power of attorney, let's say, is we spoke about Tom and Maggie, the clients you helped before. Tom had 2 children. Maggie had 3. They lived in Maggie's house. But Maggie, of course, lights went dim, and now she's in the nursing home, and she didn't update her legal documents. Now her children take over, even though Tom may be able to stay in the house if they fix that. And now Maggie's children are in charge, and Tom has to stand on the side and say nothing. Is that about right, Dave?
Yeah, if they don't have a domestic partnership filed, then Tom has no rights in the house. If they do, then he has the same rights as a spouse.
But how about rights to speak to the doctor? How about rights to say what medicine she can take? How about rights that would be the power of attorney? Is that right for healthcare matters?
The primary documents you have is a power of attorney, the healthcare directive, and that names a person that will represent the party in the hospital. Without that, it's a very gray area, and it depends on whether the hospital will talk to the domestic partner or not, or the kids. They don't want to get sued. That's the biggest concern of the hospital, not to make a decision based upon one party when you have several parties disagreeing with that decision.
Yep. So we have the issue I mentioned before. Tom's got 2 children living at Maggie's house. Maggie has the assets. Maggie signed some paperwork giving Tom the life rights, I guess, until he passes away or something like that. I guess whatever Dave's going to say. The next question is, of course, the stock market is dropping, and maybe Maggie wants to get her money out of the accounts and move them to a safer position. Maggie doesn't know how to do it. Tom knows how to do it. So that's called a power of attorney for financial matters, but her children are involved. What happens?
Power of attorney takes precedence over the children being involved. If Maggie had executed any documents appointing her domestic partner as being in charge, that'll prevail to the extent of overturning any decision that the children want.
Right. So Maggie being obviously her kids are in charge. Tom has to stand on the sideline and watch all this happen with nothing to say. And after 17 years, you'd figure you'd have something to say. Guys, if you're out there and you haven't had a legal review, a financial review, I call it the 3D approach. Alex, we spoke about the 3D approach at our firm. Alex, can you explain what we spoke about the 3D approach when we meet with people and the process that's so important because they're leaving the tax, the legal, and the finances out?
Yeah, well, and that's what it's all about. It's that if you're not taking a 3D approach, you're not looking at everything. And that's what you can do, is you're going to look at all aspects to make sure that everything is covered. And so you're going to go through all the 3Ds, Scott, and explain the Ds for folks so that they can understand when they come into you. This will help give them guidance of where the conversation is going to go.
It's so important if you have, as I say so many times when I meet with people, first time I meet with people, we talk about the 3D, the dreams, the dollars, and the dynasty. The dream portion is what you want. What does it look like? So in the case if you're a domestic partnership, maybe you need to clean up your legal stuff as well as your financial stuff we're going to talk about, which goes into the dollars. Let's fix this up. Who takes care? And then the dynasty. Who's going to help you through this matter? This is where you pull in the three blind mice. Well, let's take their glasses off, take a 3D approach, look at the dreams, look at your dollars, look at your dynasty. So at McLean Advisory Group, we take a look at everything. This is not just simply set it and forget it. This is not simply let's just take care of the money. Well, just today I had an appointment saying I never had this approach. I don't know why people don't do this. And Dave and I have been together for over 40-something years, Dave in the legal world, me in the financial world, and I just still don't understand why they don't do it, but I do know it. It's how do I get the money quickly and I can go on to the next victim or next person. I shouldn't say it that way, but I feel that way because they're not looking at everything, and this is why the three blind mice could destroy how it leads your money to a financial mousetrap.
Yep. And if you want McLean Advisory Group to take that 3D look, to take that holistic approach at your retirement, your finances, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Really enjoying today being joined by Dave Connolley, who is a consultant for the firm of Elizabeth Apollo and has been a lawyer in New Jersey for over 40 years. Like Scott just mentioned, they've been working closely together for a very long time, and they still like each other, which is great, coming on here and doing the radio with us. Yeah. Well, I was trying, Scott. All right, so let's talk here about property. How can being in this sort of agreement, when we're talking about a domestic partnership, maybe, we're not going through marriage, we're getting this agreement instead, how can this maybe protect some property that is owned by the couple or maybe a member of the relationship?
Well, the primary thing is to get the documents in place that would distribute the property at a person's death, primarily the last will and testament. And that should be reviewed every couple of years to make sure that the facts are still consistent and nothing has to be changed. If there is no marriage and there is no domestic partnership, then the person who owns the property can do anything they want. The person that is living there as a partner but with no formal documentation has no interest in any of the property that the other person has. So to protect the parties, I've seen where, as Scott says, people have been together for 15, 20 years, never filed anything, never got married. The male passes away, and the female, who is the survivor, has no interest in anything, and everything just goes by intestacy to his kids.
Yep. Well, and Scott, finish off this segment here just talking about how that you are going to have a domestic partnership, a couple come in and talk to you just like a married couple. You're going to help them with their financial planning. Just talk about how the access and the benefits of getting that financial planning is something that this agreement can help with as well.
When we go through the process, people come in, we are looking, as you said, Alex, as everything. What if scenarios? Every scenario is a what if scenario. So in the event of the illustration we gave about Tom and Maggie living in the house, the question is, do they have, where's Tom going to go? What's going to happen? How much assets? Let's say Tom has a pension and Maggie has a pension, but they don't have the benefits and the benefits can't afford keeping the house up. What's going to happen? What happens if Tom goes to the nursing home? Who's going to pay for it? Or let's say Maggie goes into the nursing home. Tom's taking care of the house. Who's paying the upkeep of the house? This is the scenario when people meet with our firm, and we've got wonderful people in our firm with tax and legal, as well as the financial planners, myself, George, other people. We think about this. I need to know the whole picture. What are the dreams? Do you plan on staying? Do you want to move? This is not a cookie cutter solution, because they don't work. Everybody's not the same, obviously. I'm a lot better looking than Dave or Alex. I can tell you that because I'm blind. But the bottom line is, it doesn't matter when you pass away. It matters when you're alive. The question is, what's in writing? The whole meeting of today is what's in writing? What are the rules? So when the kids step into the picture, I call them the crows and the clowns show up at the funeral. And the question is, that's where Pandora's box opens up, and assets, fees, taxes, as we spoke about in this show, can get disgusting and avoidable. This is why when people visit with us, Alex, by the way, if you're listening to me right now, please don't put this off. Procrastination is the mother of most people. Give our studios a call. I'd love to speak. If you want to speak to myself off the air, you want to speak to Dave, call our studio, 609-488-4646. Again, 609-488-4646. No cost, no obligation. Have your questions written down. We'll go right to the meat of it, but I want to know the whole picture. And that's when people visit with us one-on-one. We can get the both pictures from both of the partners coming into the office, not just one side, because you may be out there thinking you're going to do this, but your partner is thinking something totally different. Why? Because you haven't brought it to light.
Yep.
Putting things off causes bigger problems. It causes the problem to exponentially multiply. 609-488-4646. Hey, we're here for you guys, doing this business now for over 40 years, helping one-on-one, helping you make smart decisions with your money. Give us a call. We'd love to take your call and help you and guide you through this jungle of decisions.
Yep. Thank you for that, Scott. Today, discussing common reasons for obtaining a domestic partnership agreement. We're going to go over end-of-life decisions, retirement benefits, and more when we come back. This is Financial Insanity.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646.
Investment advisory services are offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Put your positive hat on. Let's have a call to come to Jesus meeting. Let's have a real live discussion. Let's get somewhere and put a game plan together.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Thank you so much for joining us today. A special edition. They're all special, but this one's even more special than usual. It's Financial Insanity. I'm Alex Dingman alongside Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group. And we're joined here by Dave Connolley. I guess it's been long enough that Dave said, all right, it's been long enough. I'll come back and talk with you guys again. Dave is a consultant for the firm of Elizabeth Apollo, then a lawyer, though, in the area of New Jersey for over 40 years. Discussing today estate planning for unmarried partners, as this is something that's really been growing as far as in popularity in recent years and decades. So there are some common reasons for couples to obtain a domestic partnership agreement. We've been going over those today. Let's talk about something very important, guys, end-of-life decisions and having this agreement in place and how critical that can be.
Well, as we were speaking about, whose house is it? Let's say it's a joint house, or maybe one of the other's houses. Do you have the right to stay there? That's critical. You need to know that. In addition to that question, let's say in our segments before, we had Tom and Maggie in Maggie's house. Tom is living with Maggie at 17 years. This is a case that Dave helped with. The names have been changed. But notwithstanding, now Maggie goes to a nursing home. Dave is in her house. Could he be kicked out? I don't know. And then Maggie passes away. Can she be kicked out if there's no agreement in place? Dave, what happens to our friend Tom? Is he going to go have to look around for another place?
In all likelihood, he will. And not only that, the nursing home, if you're in a nursing home, will also put a lien on a house If it was owned by domestic partners or spouses, they can only attach half the house. If it's just in the person who is in the nursing home, then the nursing home can attach the full house for any payments of costs.
If you're listening out there, Dave made a very important point. I get this all the time, and I have Dave say it again, but this is very important. I get it time after time. Should I put my house into an irrevocable trust to protect from nursing home? I want to protect that money so my partner can stay there. But if my partner dies, all the money goes to my kids when my partner dies. This is so important, Dave. Go back again and say that again if you're a domestic partner versus not. Guys, this is protecting your assets from the nursing home facilities.
The Medicaid Asset Protection Trust is very important. It's very complicated to understand. Basically, you're putting your house in a trust that will insulate any liens being put on the house if a person is getting Medicaid in order to go into a nursing home. And a lot of people think Medicaid is only for the poor. Well, that's the intent, but you can own a house with equity of $950,000 and still qualify for Medicaid. So it's a complicated area, but it's something that people should at least take a look at to see if they want to take that approach in order to protect their assets. You need to be married if you're going to protect the asset for the person that is not going into the nursing home. Like I say, it's a very complicated area of law, and it's not only law, it contains a lot of different elements, such as financial planning, but it's something that you have to sit down and really study and say, am I willing to give up my house, put it into a trust, and at that point, it will be protected from my creditors.
Talking today about domestic partnership agreements. Very important stuff. Some common reasons to obtain one of these if you are out there and maybe a marriage not in the cards, just a decision, or maybe you just kind of want to know the difference here, or maybe you're in a domestic partnership and you're not even sure of all the things that entails. And so talking about that today, if something raises questions for you, the number is 609-488-4646. Again, 609-488-4646. And talk here briefly along the same lines of what we've been hitting on, but cohabitation agreement, and how does this, is this part of a reason why someone might join a domestic partnership agreement?
It depends on what's in the agreement. You put anything you want in an agreement, cohabitation or whatever, but it's not going to be the same. It's an agreement between parties. It's not the same as a domestic partnership agreement, which is sanctioned by the state, and as a result, you get more benefits from the state, such as being able to file a joint tax return. So whatever the agreement, a cohabitation agreement is, it's only as good as the terms and conditions that are negotiated, whereas a domestic partnership agreement is by law, it tells you what you can and can't do.
No, that's very good.
Dave, let's say I've got a girlfriend, we'll call her Sue, and Sue and I it's my house. Sue is living with me. And so all of a sudden, I give Sue, we don't have any agreements, nothing in place, but I go to the lawyer and he gives me, draws up an agreement. I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm going to give Sue life rights to my house. And in the event I pass away or going to the nursing home, Sue has the right to stay in that house until she dies, becomes disabled, or if she decides to move out, or maybe she decides to get married. I don't want Sue and her new spouse or boyfriend to move in or girlfriend to move in my house. Is there such an agreement? When I die and she dies, I want to make sure that my kids get the full asset.
Absolutely. And you can even put that in a will. You can put that in a separate agreement. Basically, you're saying that you're giving your partner the ability to stay as a tenant in the house, so long as that person pays for all the repair, upkeep, taxes, or whatever else is involved in maintaining the house. And upon the death or moving out or going into a nursing home of that person, then the agreement will be held null and void, and the children can sell the house or do whatever they want. That's definitely a valid agreement.
So really, if I don't want to get, for those people who are saying, I don't want to get married, I don't want a domestic partnership, but I do want to take care of my sweetie, this is another way to do it, but it's not is it perfected? Is it okay to do that?
It's definitely okay, but it's between two parties. One party determining the terms and conditions of how the other party will stay in the house.
Can the kids kick Sue out? Let's say I decide to let Sue stay there. I pass away. She has life rights. Can they kick Sue out if I give her life rights?
Well, I can try to, but it's up to the court to determine whether the agreement will hold water or not. If the agreement is valid and written with strong language, and they're going to lose. The kids are going to lose. If the agreement is haphazard, well, they may win. It depends on how strong the agreement is. But you can always contest the agreement. The question is, are you going to win or lose?
Alex, I find this funny because when I meet with people, it's funny when I ask people to visit with our firm and we go over the 3D approach, whether it's the dreams, the dollars, or the dynasty, as we talk about the dynasty now, and meeting, I want to read their will, power of attorney, living will. How many people haven't, by the way, if you're listening to me, this might be you, so I don't want to insult you, haven't dusted off their will and read it, or dusted off their power of attorney or their living will or their healthcare directive. They haven't looked at it. And if you're a lawyer out there, if you haven't visited with your clients in over a few years, you might want to strum them up and give them a call, because not paying attention to details, your executor could be your daughter, but what if she passed away? Or what if her lights went dim? Or your executive could be your wife, but you have no backup. This is the problem I see when it comes to life decisions. And then it goes into the retirement benefits, the benefits coming in from the financial planning and the assets, and where do they go, and what happens to the assets that maybe the one of the parties were expecting to come in to pay the house. Now they can't even afford to stay in the house. This is a problem. This is why people meet with me, and over again, I'm drilling down to find out what's the best case scenario and what's the worst case scenario. What do we focus on, Alex? What's the worst case scenario? Because people don't think worst case is going to happen. Today, you're healthy. You see, you're playing golf on the golf course. You're bowling alley. You're having fun, having a pizza and playing mahjong. And the next day, you can't even wake up and move. This is life. It's not the golden years for many people. It's the rusty years. And boy, when the rust happens, the problem is we got to go to the dynasty planning, the legacy. This is a problem.
Right. And that's why it's just so important to talk about this, to talk about a domestic partnership agreement, just to get this out here. And this has been really interesting, maybe eye-opening for some folks that are out there, and maybe they don't have any paperwork. And I know it's not the sexiest thing. It's not the most exciting thing, but
not at all.
But Scott and Dave and Scott there in his office can help you through the process, and it really can be beneficial. And we just have a little bit of time left. Again, that number is 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And maybe just close this segment by talking about the personal commitment the agreement can serve as well, because that's obviously a huge part of this.
This goes between the lawyer, financial advisor, and the two partners to help them really guide you along. Our job as a financial planner and as a lawyer is not to tell you what to do, but since we've gone down this road now, Dave over 40 years and me over 40 years, although Dave's a lot older and I'm a lot better looking, but after a period of time, you kind of learn a thing or two, and we can guide you, but we're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to tell you several situations that we have been involved with that you probably are not involved with. This is all we do. This is nothing but this is all we do. This is our passion. I mean, I can tell you that if you haven't sat down and your financial advisor hasn't reviewed the legal documents as well as the tax documents and financial documents, and haven't spoken to those of you that are possibly thinking about domestic partnership. Those of you that maybe that are married and haven't really reviewed this is a problem. And those of you who have no documents, this is just don't be double dumb. Take action and get to it, because there's nothing worse than procrastination. And all of a sudden, I can tell you, Dave has done this several times. He has to take a road trip, go to the hospital, and meet with people. Dave, do you remember that? I mean, you've been to several hospitals and you have to do paperwork. Tell the audience what you've noticed.
Well, at that time, hopefully they're still cognizant and they can talk to you and let you know what they want to do. Otherwise, it's too late.
Dave said it's too late. It's never too late. Give our studios a call. Let's talk about it. Don't put this off. You give us studies. Come down here, speak to Bonnie, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Meet with me in person, no cost, no obligation. I promise you, I give you my word, because why? It's good, and we've been around for many years. I want to make sure you're buttoned up, and this is how our name gets out there, why we have such a great name in the area, and want to invite you to down 609-488-4646. Alex,
yes,
thanks for allowing us to share the show with you, because I know it's not being done, and this is critical.
No, so good. And Dave, thanks for joining us today, my friend.
My pleasure.
All right, and we'll be back. We got a mailbag segment to close things out, so don't go anywhere. This is Financial Insanity.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646.
Investment advisory services are offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
I call it the chicken and the egg. The chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. And so when the chicken pops out the eggs, if you don't need the money, let's reinvest the eggs and buy more chickens.
Man, that's just an excellent analogy, Scott.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Financial Insanity. We're having a great time as always. And in this segment, we wanted to get your questions. And so we're going to get some insights from Scott on some of your main retirement concerns, and then something fun here at the end. Scott, you're going to have to be on your toes here. We're going to do a lightning round of think fast questions. So
I appreciate that, Alex. I'm excited to tell people because we've gotten so many phone calls, and thank you for allowing me to give them to you so you can curate them to what the most common questions were. So let's get this party started.
Let's do it, my man. All right. So our first question here, we hear this a lot, but what could the impact be on my pension if I decide to retire early?
Great one. Thank you, John, who wrote that. John, let me make it real clear to you. Reduced monthly benefits. Could you reduce your monthly benefits? Number two, are you banking on your spouse's income or your significant other's income? If you're not banking on your other significant income, great. What does that look like? But then you must also think about, John, what if you became disabled and you needed extra money? Could that or could that not affect you? This is a critical decision when we talk about Social Security, as well as the many pension options that you're available to take. And this is mistakes. I call this the pension trap. So if you have questions out there, anybody about to take the pensions, you definitely want to give our studios a call, because this is one of the most disastrous choices when they pick the pension option. What option is the best for you? It's not a simple ABC, let's go to D. That's not the right. So please don't put that off. Please feel free to give me a call. I don't mean to throw a plug out there. No cost, no obligation. Call me in my studio, 609-488-4646, 4646. And again, thank you, John, for your call. 609-488-4646. Anybody else has questions and want to go on the air, Alex, I'll give them to you. Go ahead. Next one.
Love it. As we're going through some listener questions today, another question we had coming in: how might healthcare costs affect my retirement savings? That's a big one.
It is a big one. You think about the rising cost of health insurance. I just had a meeting yesterday with someone, and he said they had a health care plan, HSA. What a great way to hide and defer income for retirement, or for you and or your spouse. If you're married, if you're single, it's a different game plan. But are you using your HSA? Question is it an HSA, use it or lose it? Nah, unless you have health expenses for you or your spouse. The second question is going to be, if it's for both of you, can you not lose it? Can you carry it with you when you retire? Why? Because the rising of healthcare, the unplanned medical expenses, or for those of you who have teeth that need new teeth, that could be one heck of an expense for a medical that's unseen. Then you have long-term care costs going into retirement, and perhaps add in inflation. This could be a spanking. So again, if I were to warn you out there, Charlie, you wrote this, you and Susan wrote this, you kind of did it together. Thank you. This is a very important question when it comes to healthcare benefits and how it really can affect your retirement savings, because God forbid you get a major health illness and maybe your lights start to twinkle or go dim and you have to have someone else care for each one, your loved ones, and if the kids aren't going to help out, it is a really, really expensive chore.
Scott, you hit on inflation. As we're going over listener questions today, if you have a question for Scott and his team, McLean Advisory Group, that number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. But how does someone calculate for inflation when trying to figure out if they've saved enough? I know, right?
What kind of question is that? I mean, I see, and I look at this, Janie, when you sent that question into us, like, that's a really loaded question, because when you're trying to plan for inflation, we've just seen the rapid inflation from 2021-22, the rising of interest rates, the screaming of interest rate. We see bank failures happening because they had to buy government bonds to protect their money, and they have a bank situation. Man, that was a whole poop show of challenges. So I guess slow and steady wins the race, but we do need, so in inflationary times, usually stock does better. But sometimes we've just faced this, the market has been really volatile. If you think about 2022, it has been tremendous. If you had a bond or like instruments or income type instruments, you probably lost around 15 to 20%. But if you didn't get scared and your underwear didn't get dirty and you held on, you finally are starting to come back. So be very cautious on how you invest the money and understanding the process of what investments to go into, because there are inflationary investments that we can keep up. We saw the Treasury. We had some of you out there let me know when you bought that 9% inflationary bond. That was wonderful for a little bit of money based on your portfolio. Again, you need to adapt to the situations. And again, what is your risk tolerance? Should it be higher now with the rapid inflation? Because we have to keep up with the money. And then, of course, your lifestyle has to change for some of you, because you frankly can't go out to dinner maybe twice a week. Maybe it's twice a month because of inflation. You're buying this food. So again, that's a really good question. It's a really hard question. If somebody thinks they have a hedge on it, good for you. You can buy tools. I call equipment, but you can buy tools. But will it keep with the rapid inflation we have seen in this short period? I'm now 65, Alex. I've seen it in the 80s when it went skyrocketing, but it didn't do it. This skyrocket trip was faster than it was in the 80s.
609-488-4646. The number for Scott, 609-488-4646. Another question we got in here before we go to the rapid fire segment here. We're going to learn a little bit more about you, Scott. But first, another one from a listener here is, when might be the right time to start planning for retirement?
Well, that is a $1 million question, and that should be the moment you start work.
Yep.
You see, if you're brand new, right out of the high school, maybe you're joining these armed services, congratulations, and you get a nice stipend, put away a minimum of 10%. That's gross. So if your income a month is $3,000, put away $300. If your income a month is $500, put away $50. It doesn't matter the numbers if you're real young. Now, if you're older and you've got to play catch up, and I had a nice meeting with a lovely couple the other day, and they said, you know what, we treated our kids, we spent a lot of money, we did a lot of fun sport things with our child and our children, and he said, you know, Scott, we didn't really plan. And now they're starting to sock money away. I said, maximize your 401k. So for each individual person, this is very important. By putting your head in the sand, like those ostriches, your vitals are exposed to the elements of inflation, stock market reduction, or stock market going tremendously well. You have a lot of left hooks, so you've got to take your head out of the sand and say, when do I plan? Now, when do I like to meet with people? If they're older, my age group, when I work with people are, 55 and older, I'd like to meet with people at least 1 to 2 years ahead of time, worst case, 6 months. Now, for those of you that are just retired now, and you say, well, Scott doesn't want to meet with us. No, I'd love to meet with you. Frankly, this is, again, we're going to try to play catch up. We have to really maneuver things differently. But again, it's not a rushed plan. I see so many people going to financial planners, and they get this fancy 30, 40 page printout. That's good for one day. Next day, life changes. This is really important to understand what you need now, what you and your spouse, if you're married, or just you individually, how much do you need? How much does Social Security be? How much do I need to really live on? And then think backwards. What about the trips I want to take? So again, this planning is not a show up at a advisor's office and he does it for you or she does it for you. No, this is think through the process of all the variables, as we spoke about just early in this segment, the healthcare, inflation, Social Security, when do your pension options, they all tie together. In addition, don't forget taxes, because taxes could evaporate a great amount of earnings if taken from the wrong investment.
Great stuff today, and we really appreciate everyone who sent in questions. If you have a question for Scott and his team, McLean Advisory Group, the number is 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. All right, Scott, we're going to pivot here. We got 2 minutes.
You didn't plan anything? I got nothing planned.
I know. I know. I'm putting you on. You got to be on your toes here, Scott. All right.
Got it.
Which I know you can do, my friend. And so you got 2 minutes, and I'm going to just send you some questions. These are all easy questions because they're about you. Okay, you know you, but I don't want you dwelling on any of these answers because I want to try to get through as many as I can here in 2 minutes.
Got it.
All right. All right.
Go.
Let's do it. 2 minutes on the clock. First question for you, Scott McLean. What's on your bucket list?
Growing my business. I want more locations. I love this business.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Making mistakes and getting so mad at myself. I got to correct them. I hate making mistakes.
When you make that mistake, what's your favorite comfort food? Make you feel better.
I had it last night. Don't tell my wife. Twinkies.
I love it. Favorite athlete of all time?
It's Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Watching what he came from and where he was nobody when he was in high school. Nobody wanted him, and he pulled himself up by the bootstraps.
Yep.
Michael Jordan.
Love that answer right there. Favorite book?
I love the Bible, but on top of the Bible, I would tell anybody to get evidence that demands a verdict. I needed to know what I believe and why I believe, and that was almost like a Harvard graduate, the law book, Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell.
Very cool. We're halfway through it. Go to icebreaker story. Is there any sort of icebreaker story? You don't know somebody. Is there something you like to tell about yourself or something that happened? Any icebreaker story for you?
Yes, when I got hit by a car and the car left.
That's a good one. That's a good one because I would have questions. I'd have questions.
8 years old, and it was a life-changing alteration.
I bet. What about your morning routine? What's that look like?
Because I drive from the farm to the office, it's about a 45-minute drive, so I shower, get ready, and I have a quiet time by myself, me and my maker. We think about the day and what I need help on and just guidance.
I love it. All right, 2 more real quick. Holiday you look forward to the most?
Easter.
Oh,
beautiful.
Very cool. I love it. And earliest financial lesson that you can remember?
When I was building a huge business and the government took it away, President Biden was involved in that. The biggest lesson was what you think is stable now may not be stable later. How do you plan?
I love it. What a great message. Scott McLean right there in a nutshell in 2 minutes. I appreciate you, my friend. That is great. And I appreciate all of our listeners. Again, if you have a question for Scott and his team, that number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Scott, as always, good talking to you, my friend.
Thank you, Alex. You're wonderful.
And thank you all for listening. Have a great rest of your week.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.